Page 22, rock tune. This piece is again in G major. I think all these pieces we're doing in this part of the book are in G major. You get one sharp, F sharp. This piece starts out with the left hand, and then the right hand, then the left hand, then the right hand. Well, we get a lot of staccatos. Those dots. Guess we can talk about staccato. There's a difference of opinion on staccato. I'm not going to get into it. Different people teach different things. They got different ideas. That's fine. This is what I was taught. This is the way I teach my students. This is what I believe. I use different techniques for staccato. I use 3 different techniques depending on the situation. Here at the beginning, the left hand starts this. You have the chords. First, when you're first doing a piece, forget all that and just get the notes. You got a 1 chord and then a 4 chord. In the next measure, there's this chord, whatever that is. That's a 1/7, but and then a 4 chord and a 1 chord. So get the chords first. You got the notes. Okay, we're good. Now I'm going to add the staccatos. And when it's a chord, I do what's known as a wrist or hand staccato. Some people call it a hand. I don't know why. The wrist, you hinge at the wrist, and it's here. Tricky because you're coming down and your fingers got to be aimed right, or you don't get the notes you want. You don't have to have a lot of motion. It's just a little motion. I'm exaggerating it, and when you're first learning it, it doesn't hurt to exaggerate that. Don't hurt yourself physically, but I'm saying to drill that into the brain of what that feels like. There's another technique some people will use, and that's called an arm staccato on chords that are loud, because the smaller muscles work great when you got to go fast and delicate. When you got to be really loud and boisterous, larger muscles help out. So, and the arm staccato does it at the wrist. You're doing this, but the wrist isn't stiff. The wrist stays loose. It's like a shock absorber, but you're just coming down with the whole arm. When it's loud, that can help out. If it were soft, you don't want to do that. You'd have to use the wrist with just a little motion. And it's a good idea to learn to play this in the different, really loud or really soft or whatever, and get an idea of this wrist, get a feel for it. In both hands, it's good to do that in both hands. You can do your primary chords with that. Like play 4 quarter notes or something with each chord. Just as an exercise, just to get a feel for this. Now with the third measure, when the right hand comes in on single notes, some people will continue to use the wrist. I don't. I use a finger staccato. It's a light. Now if it's really loud, fingers won't do it. The muscles are too small. You can't do it. You got to use the wrist. But let's pretend it's soft. It isn't, but we'll pretend. I like to pretend. It's just a real light plucking. Now, you would think, why can't you just go down and up? And the reason, a couple of reasons, but the idea is when you go down, you have to reverse direction then to come up. It's one direction and then another direction. I'm trying to get that. That gets very tiring very quickly, and you can't do that real quick. There's a limit to how fast you can go down and up. But you can do a circle very quickly without getting tired. I mean, you can do this for quite a while. And so we translate that into the finger staccato, and you simply here, 4th finger here, and you... Now the thumb can't do a pluck because the thumb is sideways. So I can do here, but a thumb I'm going to do here. So the thumb has to go down and up. Doesn't have a choice. Tough. So the third measure... like so, and that is a technique that can be used. In this piece I don't recommend it because this is loud all the way through, and so you're going to have to use the wrist. The other question is on staccato is how short should the short be? Because technically speaking, a staccato is anything that's not legato. You get legato where they're connected. So if I start with the third line, forget the dots, play it legato, what's that? That's legato. They're connected as best I can do. Anything short of that is staccato. So either disconnected, it's a long staccato, it's still a staccato. I typically teach the short staccato, and then when the music requires it, I lengthen it. I tell the student to lengthen, play a little longer here or whatever, because I find that shorter staccato takes a little more getting used to, and so get a handle on that. So I'm going to encourage you to use short staccato here on all of them, because if I did the left hand there at the beginning with a longer staccato, it was here. I'm still doing the wrist thing, but I'm just staying down longer. Bom, 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 bom type thing. I'm not bouncing off the keys. This, we're bouncing off the keys. You can try it in various lengths and see what you think. I mean, ultimately, it's up to you on how you want to play it. The rhythm is pretty straightforward for the most part. You just got your 1 and 2 and 3 and stuff. But there's a little bit on the last measure there in the first line. You got that tied note. So the rhythm is, you hang on to that note. The quarter note is just tied. You don't play the quarter note again. You just hang on to the 8th note. Just hang on to it. And the second line, third measure, same thing. Just hang on. Once you play it, just hang on to it. Now it's tied all the way to the end. So you're going to hold it down forever, pretty much, until the left hand's done. Whichever comes first. Then one more thing to add to the mix, because if you don't have enough already, look at the last line on the first measure. We have that staccato and the tied note. Well, on that tied note, there's an accent, a little sideways arrow. That means give it a little extra oomph. This is very common in rock, blues, jazz, various types of music, where if you have a syncopated note, you'll accent the syncopated note. It's just an interpretive thing. Here, they put the accent in for you, but even if the accent were not there, you'd accent the note anyway. So it's accent that note. In the second line, you see the accent over that syncopated note. And then I hear you saying, what's a syncopated note? Well, syncopation is when you play a note when you don't expect to, or you don't play a note when you do expect to. Syncopation. Anything that you're not expecting. We're not expect in the last measure, we expect this. That's just normal. But the fact that they tied those together makes it syncopated. You know, wait a minute, what's going on? And because of that, that's the accent, that's the syncopation. In the second line, third measure, without the syncopation, we just take out the tie. That's normal. But by putting in the tie, we're expecting it, it doesn't come. Well, then we go ahead and accent it for that reason. Oh, like so. That's a syncopated note. I'll talk more about that later on, because everybody uses it. It's been used for hundreds of years. Syncopation's been around a long time. Now take a look at the second measure. Either line doesn't matter, they're the same. You have a G, first a D, and an F natural. See the natural sign? Because it should be a G sharp, or an F sharp. But they want an F natural there. It's called an accidental. Just pointing it out. In the next measure, right hand, you have, it's an F natural, because it should be an F sharp. But in the last measure, it's an F natural. And in the last measure, it's the way with rules for accidentals. Once they're introduced in a measure, they apply to that note, the note name in that staff, for the rest of the measure. And then when you cross the bar line, they cancel out. So that first F in the last measure applies, the natural applies for the rest of the measure. So the second F in that measure is also natural. So that's why it's still an F natural. So be aware of the accidentals, the F natural. Actually, in this piece, there are no F sharps. Everything is, they put in natural signs on every F. But it's still in G major. So let's try this out. As far as where the melody is, it's pretty much everything in this piece. It's pretty much everything. You can bring out everything here. Play it all the same. For the play with me, I'm not going to try and play it really loud or anything. I'm just going to play it. I'll give us 4 counts. Let's try this out. Now, the left hand starts in G position. The right hand, when it comes in, you see the 4th finger on this G. So you're going to be here. They're in each other's way. They're sharing the here. So it's up to you. If you want to wait with the right hand to put it up right before it's needed and then get that left hand out of the way, you can do that if you want, if it helps. 1, 2, 3, and go, and. 3, 4, off.